Hello and welcome back to Possum Ridge Farms. In today's episode we're going to talk about electric livestock containment fencing. Stay tuned. Our electric fencing was designed and built to be a permanent structure around the farm. Main sections of the fence have been segregated into paddocks for livestock rotation and pasture management, primarily for the use with our dairy goats, but it's been expanded to accommodate cows and geese as well. We use 5 strands of 14-gauge electric fence wire with our T-posts at about 20 feet apart. Some might say this is somewhat of an overkill, and for some types of livestock it probably is. In our experience, cows, for instance, only need a single wire strand, and they will mostly stay put. Goats, on the other hand, are much more difficult to contain, and our design works amazingly well for that application. We also utilize our permanent electric fencing to provide the power for our movable free-range chicken and duck fencing. This circumvents the need for an additional energizer. More on that later. Advantages of electrical livestock containment fencing. Number 1. Cost. It's much cheaper to run electric fence than typical barbed wire for grazing livestock. Number 2. Ease of installation. Electric fence goes in much faster than any other type of conventional fencing. Number 3. It's easily expanded. Number 4. Electric fence deters predators. I have seen or heard coyotes, raccoon, possum, skunk, and feral dogs hit the fence and be somewhat discouraged from going forward. So far, in the past 20 years, we've not lost any baby goats to predators. Number 5. In our experience, it's the only type of fence that will readily contain goats. One of the few downsides to electric fencing is you have to keep the weeds somewhat under control around the fencing and an occasional short, reducing your overall fence voltage. A properly designed and maintained fence will give you years of trouble-free service. How does electric livestock containment fencing work? An electric fence energizer converts power into a high-voltage, low-amperage pulse or consistent charge. The electric charge is felt by the animal, which touches any electrified part of the fence. When the animal makes contact with the fence, the circuit is complete, transferring the charge through the animal to ground via grounding rods. The shock does not harm the animal. It does, however, get the point across to stay away from the fence. After the animals are trained that touching the fence is a bad idea, most animals will give it a wide path, except goats, of course, and this is usually the time they start planning alternate methods of escape. We train all our animals from birth to respect these little wires and have little problems in livestock containment. There are much more detailed operational descriptions online if you need more detail. Electric fence components. The Energizer. These can be powered through AC electric, DC electric, batteries, or solar. There are 2 types, the pulsar type or the consistent voltage type. The pulsar type intermittently sends voltage through the wires, basically 1 second on, 1 second off. The consistent voltage type is one consistent long charge. Grounding rods, clamps, and copper wire. Lightning arresters. Please don't skimp on the lightning arresters. We've had 1 lightning strike in 30 years, which did minimal damage, primarily due to the usage, or maybe even overusage, of lightning arresters. Please be careful. Electric wire, springs, and ratchets. As stated earlier, we use 14-gauge electrical fence wire. This is pretty heavy wire, but it's lasted us over 20 years. It was a great investment. There's also pre-made electrical mesh fencing, primarily used for chickens. This was made very popular by the chicken free-range movement. Insulators and some sort of support structure. Wood posts are usually utilized for corners, curves, and serve as the main tensioning support for the fence. T-posts are used for holding up the insulators and the electrical fence. A few safety tips. When working on live electric fence circuitry, ensure you have the proper testing and safety equipment. Never attempt to step over or climb through an energized electric fence. Never encourage anyone to touch an electric fence. And if you should inadvertently touch the fence, it's an interesting experience that will certainly highlight your day. Successful design and implementation of our electric livestock containment fencing was not by chance. With our early fences, we made lots of mistakes, most of which we learned from, resulting in our current fence design. Understanding the basics can get you started, but with a little experience, you'll be able to contain the animal of your choice. Until next time, see you down at the barn.